Ever wondered how Christianity became so entwined with English culture? Here's an Undeceptions instant expert. Sarah Foote is the Regius Professor of Ecclesiastical History at the University of Oxford. She's currently working on a major scholarly biography of the Venerable Bede, as well as a translation of Bede's most famous work, The Ecclesiastical History of the English People. And Sarah says everything you need to know about who brought Christianity to Britain is right in there.
So if we could ask Bede this question, he has a really clear answer. Who was the apostle to the English? It was Pope Gregory I, who sent missionaries from his own monastery in Rome on the Celian Hill to England. He sent a group of them led by a man whose name was Augustine. They left Rome in 596.
And it's not the Augustine that we've done a show on before.
No, not Augustine of Hippo, Augustine of Canterbury.
Got it.
They set off from Rome probably by sea. They started to travel up the Rhone Valley through France, and they hadn't got very far when I like to imagine them somewhere, maybe Nîmes or Arles. They're sitting underneath a tree, they're sipping some of the local rosé, and they say, actually, there's quite a lot of mission and evangelization we could do round here. Why would we want to go to this country where we can't speak the language, where they are very fierce barbarians, they worship sticks and stones, and frankly, we're really likely to get killed? So Augustine went back to Rome and said to Gregory, do you know, we don't really want to go. And Gregory said, come on, get a grip. You need to go. This is a people who need to hear the good news of the Bible. He gave them some extra help. He got some extra help as they were travelling through France. They took interpreters with them. And they landed just off the eastern coast of Kent, an island, then a separate island of Thanet, and were met with some consternation by the king and his men there, who weren't willing at first to meet them inside because they didn't know quite what magic they might have brought with them. But Augustine and his followers persuade the people of Kent to convert, and there's then a Roman mission that works its way up the eastern seaboard, clearly travelling from kingdom to kingdom round the coast. So Kent, and then Essex with its capital in London, and then they went to East Anglia, and then they got as far as Northumbria, and Paulinus, another Roman missionary, converts the Northumbrian king, Edwin, a big set-piece baptism scene on Easter Day in the year 627. And at one level, at least the eastern side of Anglo-Saxon England is at that point nominally Christian. Those royal courts up the east side have all converted. But when those kings died, their sons didn't necessarily keep following the new religion, and they gradually slipped back into paganism. And it takes two more missionary impulses to make the conversion permanent. The first is brought to Northumbria by Edwin's successor Oswald, who'd been in exile on the Scottish island of Iona, just off the southwestern coast of Scotland, a monastery with Irish monks, followers of St Columba. Oswald brought a group of monks from Iona to his kingdom in Northumbria. They set up a base at Lindisfarne, and then using slightly different methods from the Romans, they then converted the Northumbrians, and the faith trickled back south again with the help from a number of missionaries from France in the same time, in Wessex, Agilbert in Wessex, Felix among these East Angles. Our narrative for how this happens comes entirely from Bede's ecclesiastical history, Bede's history of the English church and people. And Bede tells it as a top-down story. Missionaries sent by major churches go to kings, often kings who have Christian wives, which is a subplot that repeats several times over. The king converts, his court converts, and it trickles down to the wider population at varying degrees of speed, which Bede never talks about. There has to have been mission and evangelisation in the western side of England, which Bede never talks to us about, and it clearly didn't work top down. It clearly worked from the bottom up, and there are not great evangelising missionary bishops who are remembered as saints. The most likely explanation is that the church from Roman Britain did not entirely die out in the western British parts of England, that in fact it wasn't a pagan desert. There were Christians there, and those British Christians talked and intermarried and did the missionary work from the bottom up with Anglo-Saxons in the western areas, so that by Bede's day there are there are bishoprics in Hereford and Worcester and these places where we know nothing about how they were initially converted. But the British are the anti-heroes of Bede's history, and he wouldn't want you to think that the Britons had done any important mission, because he largely thought that they didn't do it. So that's a bit of the story about which he's silent.
Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this chance to become an instant expert. You'll find loads more on this topic, plus a bunch of other informative videos over at the Undeceptions YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Undeceptions. See ya.